Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web-based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and of course, sharing information worldwide. Today, I want to take a moment and talk about 5 tips for breaking your anxiety cycle. I know I've talked about it before, how over the last maybe year or so, where anxiety has been a lot higher, both for people who have a history of experiencing anxiety or a diagnosed anxiety disorder, as well as for people who don't have any history with anxiety just because of the way things have been. So today I want to talk about 5 tips for breaking that cycle, or helping you break that cycle, or at least maybe pause it or disrupt the cycle. That's the word, disrupt the cycle. But before I get into that, I want to take a quick moment and say, if you are subscribed, thank you so much for being a part of our world of awesomeness. And if you are not yet subscribed, please take a moment and click the subscribe button below so that you can join all this awesomeness. And remember to tick the bell so you are notified when I post new videos so you don't miss anything. And of course, if you'd like to purchase 1 or 3 of my books, there's also a link below that will take you to a site that shows you all your different options of places to get 1 or 3 of my books. Okay, I'll get back to it now. First, learn what your triggers are. Generally, there are triggers. One thing that many people who suffer from anxiety will tell you is that it's often different. It's not always the same thing. No, it's not always going to be the same situation that triggers an anxiety attack or a panic attack. But there are things that are normally that can be a trigger, and it's important to start figuring out what those triggers are. What are those situations that tend to happen before an anxiety attack or a panic attack happens? So start paying attention, or for lack of better words, revisiting the situation to learn what took place before an attack took place, so that you can start understanding and gaining a better understanding of what might be triggers. Maybe it's a certain person, maybe it's being spoken to in a specific way, maybe it's being in a certain environment. Whatever it is that is leading or that is preceding your anxiety attacks, start learning to what those are, so you can start being able to identify triggers. 2, notice symptoms so that you can create responses. Generally, when the trigger is presented, there are some symptoms that start to appear. And the symptoms it's not always like, hey, trigger and boom, symptoms. Sometimes the symptoms very often they gradually increase. So if you start noticing your symptoms, then you're in a better position to create responses. For example, maybe when a trigger is presented, you start feeling that your heart rate is racing a mile a minute. That is something, once you notice that, you can start creating a response for that. What do you need to do when you start feeling that heart racing symptoms? Do you need to take a moment and work on a breathing exercise? Do you need to step out? Do you need to, whatever it is? Or maybe one of your symptoms is that your palms get sweaty. Maybe the room gets super hot. The room gets really cold. Find out what your symptoms are, and that way, when you start feeling a symptom, you can start putting into place or into action the responses that you've identified. Those are the things that can help you de-escalate the situation. If you start experiencing the symptoms of an anxiety attack approaching, what do you need to do? Do you need to talk to someone? Do you need to step outside? Do you need to do whatever it is that works for you? 3, eliminate or at least reduce avoidance behaviors. Because sometimes people, because you've experienced an anxiety attack in this situation, you just now, hey, I'm not going to do anything relating to that. Yes, you want to reduce your triggers. You want to reduce exposure to triggers. You don't want to unnecessarily put yourself in situations that will trigger an anxiety attack. However, it's important to avoid avoidance behaviors, meaning that, hey, the original examples were not the best. A better example would be doing something like adding an additional 30 minutes or even an hour to your commute to work to avoid a specific item like a bridge or something, or not participating in activities with your children because in order to avoid a particular trigger. Anything that is taking away from your everyday life, that is taking away from your ability to participate fully or enjoy fully the things that are important to you, would be things that you would want to avoid avoiding. So instead of avoiding things completely, it may be, and a lot of times it is helpful to learn how to de-escalate the situation, make the situation your friend instead of just running away from that enemy. Because a lot of the situations that can be anxiety producing are not always things that you can decide, hey, I'm completely going to avoid that. Because, hey, it might have something to do with your job. It might have something to do with your family. It might have something to do with your children. Instead of completely avoiding the situation, figure out ways to make the situation your friends. Figure out ways to live in the situation and take charge of the situation instead of allowing that particular incident or the situation to deter you from doing things that you may need to do, or some things that you may otherwise enjoy doing without that, one little piece of it causes anxiety. 4, reframe and challenge negative thoughts. Especially as we start, when people experience anxiety in specific situations, a lot of times they start making a big generalization. They start creating a story around that anxiety. Like, hey, you know what? This going to the park causes anxiety. So because I had an anxiety attack in this park, any park is now off limit because this. No, reframe those thoughts that are telling you that everything is going to be anxiety producing. The thoughts that may make it feel like the whole world is an anxiety attack waiting to happen. When you start experiencing negative thoughts, it's important to take the time and challenge them. Look at what the facts are. What are the conditions? What are the situations? What's the history? What is happening? So you can, when you challenge the negative thoughts, you're able to better see, okay, what are the positive things? What are ways that we can engage in this environment? What are ways that we can do this activity and not have it always be have the result always be an anxiety attack? So take the time and reframe your thoughts or negative thoughts so that, hey, maybe when you have positive thoughts going into it, it could help make the situation, reduce the pressure of the situation. And by reducing the pressure, thus reducing your risk of an anxiety attack. So reframe and challenge negative thoughts as they appear. And finally, keep a stress or anxiety relief toolbox. Those are the little things that you know that you can do to that will help de-escalate a situation, that could help bring you back down to your normal, that could reduce the stress of a situation, that can disrupt an anxiety attack that's about to happen, that can help intervene for you. Things like maybe breathing exercises, having certain stress relievers. I know right now the Pop-Its or the pop, whatever that pop thing is, that's big. At one point we had fidget spinners, stress balls. Those are a classic. They've been around for a while. Keep an anxiety or stress relief toolbox. Whatever things that you have done in the past, whatever things that you know generally work for reducing your anxiety or reducing the stress that you may feel in a particular situation, keep a toolbox, a ready-to-go toolbox of those things. That way, anytime you see that a trigger is presented, you can insert that your resource right then and there. If the trigger is presented, sometimes even before you experience the symptoms, you put in an intervention, and that may create a situation where instead of waiting until a symptom and then you're in a panic, instead of that, it could, eliminate or save you from experiencing a panic attack or an anxiety attack at the moment. Whatever your resources are, whatever the things are that help you reduce or avoid or decrease anxiety or stress in a situation. Keep a toolbox of those. Some of them are going to be physical, and some of it is part of your mental toolbox where hey, I need to work on my breathing exercises. I need to be doing XYZ. Whatever works for you, that's what you should be. That's what should be in your toolbox. Let's do a quick recap. 1, learn what your triggers are. Because when you learn what your triggers are, you're better able to plan for them, to address them when they are presented before things even get started or get out of hand. 2, notice symptoms and create responses. Whatever symptoms that generally start happening when you're in the process or as you get ready to have an anxiety or a panic attack, start to learn and be familiar with what those are and create responses. For example, the room gets hot when you're to go outside, whatever works for you. 3, eliminate avoidance behaviors, because if all you do is avoid the situations, you don't get to develop the skills to deal with these situations. And sometimes those situations are necessary, whether for job or for whatever part of your life. 4, reframe and challenge negative thoughts, because there are a lot of them that help contribute to the anxiety, to the story that you create. So instead of letting the negative thoughts create the story, reframe and challenge those thoughts into more positive outcomes. And finally, keep a stress or anxiety relief toolbox. Things that you can do to de-escalate a situation, to help you avoid a panic attack, to help stop a panic attack that is getting started, and whatever it is that works for you. Those are the things that should be in your toolbox. Whether it works for me or the next guy or the other person is not relevant. The only thing that matters is that this tool, this resource, when you apply it, it's going to help you. It's going to make a difference in your anxiety, or in reducing or avoiding or eliminating your anxiety. As always, if you or someone happens to be going through something that's more than you can handle, please remember that there are professionals like myself who are available, able, and willing to help, and are even providing remote services who can assist with whatever you may have going on. So please figure out who those people are in your community so that if you need them, you can reach out and get the help that you need. And that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.